and the PFM Act provide for an open participatory budget process guided by prudence, transparency, and accountability. Sector working groups usually launch in September, but for this year's schedule has been brought forward so that Parliament can be able to complete all budget business before rising ahead of the 2027 general elections. The process, including the launch of the sector hearings, the consideration of the approval of budget policy, public participation, and approval of the appropriation bill must therefore be compressed and concluded well ahead of the elections. I urge every sector working groups to treat national treasury timelines as firm and non-negotiable. We expect you to front-load your technical work so that Parliament can discharge its constitutional duty of scrutinizing and approving the budget within the revised schedule. The Budget and Appropriations Committee has already reorganized its program to match your output with timely legislative action. I want to speak briefly on the role of Parliament in the budget-making process, because in the recent past we have had areas where there's been some conflict during the budget-making process, where departments and accounting officers get the feeling that Parliament is overstepping its mandate in the budget-making process. Article 221, subsection 4 of the Constitution of Kenya requires that before National Assembly considers revenue and expenditure estimates, Budget and Appropriations Committee must discuss, review, and recommend changes. Article 221, subsection 6 requires the House approval of estimates before they are included in appropriation bill. This framework envisions active parliamentary scrutiny and not executive rubber stamping. Section 39(1) explicitly states that National Assembly shall consider budget estimates with a view of approving them with or without amendments. Section 39 sub 3 states that the conditions amendments must align with the Division of Revenue Act and budget policy statement resolutions, and any spending increase must be offset by either a corresponding reduction elsewhere or to lower the deficit. I wanted to emphasize this point because even though we have adopted an approach of always having consultations with all of you, ministries, National Treasury, and we are going to continue doing the same, we want you to understand that Parliament has the overriding mandate in terms of writing the budget. And when I talk to departmental committees, when they appear before us, because you engage with departmental committees directly, sometimes they tell us that you do not convince them about your allocations. I wanted to request the sector working groups to ensure that when you appear before Parliament, you give them all the information they require so that they are able to support the proposals that you present before Parliament. In this environment, the committee expects sector working groups to do the following. 1, ensure that resource envelope is realistic and consistent with the macroeconomic environment. The PS National Treasury has already explained to you the macroeconomic environment in which you are operating, and that there's a possibility that going forward we are still going to face revenue shortfalls. So we expect the sector working groups to come up with proposals that are aligned and that are realistic with what is the revenue envelope that we are expecting to achieve. Number 2, we expect you to rank programs by impact and alignment to national priorities and not by historical allocations. Now, when you're coming up with your programs and with the ceilings, there's a tendency to come up with historical allocations where in the last financial year, this was the allocation. We want to up it by 20%, 10%. This is not what Budget Committee is going to expect. So we want you to ensure that the programs that you come up with have impact and they are aligned with national priorities. Number 3, we expect you to give priority to sectors and programs with the greatest potential to create jobs, stimulate growth, and improve livelihoods. You know that we are facing a job crisis as an economy, as a country. And there is no better place for us to create jobs than during sector working groups hearings. So the budget committees will be expecting you to come up with programs that, first of all, have impact, And we also believe that every sector is capable of creating job opportunities. So we will be keen to look at the sectors to look at each sector and the priorities you have given to your sectors, and whether they will have an impact on in creating jobs, more jobs for our youths. Number 4, we expect you to provide comprehensive and realistic costing of ongoing projects to avoid pending bills and creating unfunded commitments. Again, pending bills remains one of our problems, and when you looked at the presentation by the peers, again, it is an issue that we are grappling with as a country, and we do not want to increase those pending bills by creating more. Number 5, we expect you to align sector ceilings strictly with the agreed resource envelope, so that you do not submit bids that exceed indicative ceilings. I think that's straight and clear. We expect you to adopt zero-based budgeting. This has been, I think, overemphasized. That we have now adopted a zero-based budgeting, and this will involve regular costing of your programs. The costing of your programs can be done annually, it can be done after every 2 years, to ensure that we indeed implement the zero-based budgeting approach. And lastly, because we are facing elections next year, and because elections is not just about IEBC, there are many sectors here that are going to be involved in elections, the security sector, the judiciary, and you know yourselves. So we expect you to ensure that you budget for the elections, so that in the course of preparing for elections, we do not have a situation where somebody is saying, I was not given these resources and therefore I cannot help, or I cannot participate in the electoral process. Now, I just want to speak briefly about the alignment with the national priorities. And I want to say that the 2027-2028 budget must consolidate gains under the bottom-up transformation agenda and position the country for sustained economic takeoff. Sector working groups must vigorously examine progress against the 7 priority pillars of the broad-based government, namely agriculture and food security, MSMEs, housing and settlement, manufacturing, the digital superhighway, and ICT, the creative and service economy, environment and climate change. We expect you to assess achievements, identify gaps, propose accelerated milestones, and also recommend resource allocations that maximize impact. Number 4, now the central theme must be private sector-led growth. This government endeavors to create an enabling environment through predictability, reduced bureaucracy, infrastructure, investment, affordable credit, and public sector partnerships. We believe that working with private sector and running a budget which is focused on stimulating private sector growth is going to be the hallmark for us to achieve the visions that are envisaged in the government agenda. Then we have the youth unemployment, which remains pressing. Every sector proposal must demonstrate clear job creation potential through skills development, apprenticeships, entrepreneurship support, digital economy expansion, creative industries, and agribusiness. Our balance of trade is worsening due to limited exports. Investment in agriculture and manufacturing can help improve export volumes and counter the import bill. Support value addition, final product manufacturing, and branding in coffee, tea, horticulture. I think this is something that maybe the CS will speak about. Balance of trade is worsening, and this is because we are importing more than we are exporting. I believe through the sector working groups, the solution is here. How we come up with our budgets is going to inform whether we are going to help in trimming the balance of trade or exaggerating the same. Then we need to ensure that there is coherence with fourth medium-term plan and county integrated development plans. I think these two needs to work together, because this is also where we are going to share resources to counties. So as we come up with our programs, we need to align them with what counties are also doing, so that first there's no duplication. Even though we have noted that even at this level, there's a lot of duplications, where this particular ministry and the other ministry are handling, are budgeting for the same programs, which have the same impact. And I want to end by saying that this is the last budget for this administration. before 2027 elections. Now it is our final major opportunity to consolidate gains, accelerate delivery, and lay a strong foundation for the future. I believe that we are going to continue after 2027 elections. And all of us who are here, we are going to be here next year to continue doing the same job. So therefore, I believe that this is going to be a very, very important budget for this administration. And therefore, we are asking everybody to ensure that this is going to be a budget of our legacy. Let me say something before I conclude on the public debt. And last financial year, we had a lot of problems. As you're aware, the oil crisis caused by the war in Iran brought us a lot of challenges. As a country, we had to go back to Parliament to lower taxes on petroleum products. If you remember, we had a reduction on VAT, and this really affected our revenue performance. Despite all those challenges, and I want to thank National Treasury team that is here for prudent running of our economy. Despite all those challenges, we ended up with a fiscal deficit of just 6.7% to GDP. Actually, we had projected that the fiscal deficit would end at about 7.5. It was lower. Now, if you compare the average fiscal deficit of the previous regime had an average fiscal deficit of about 9%. So, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that this government is doing way much better than the previous government in terms of prudent management of the economy. And I think we need to thank the team that is here, led by the CS and the PS, for doing a good job, and we need to thank them for that. Let us not fear borrowing. I am one person who believes that we must borrow to run the economy. We can't run the economy from ordinary revenue alone. And therefore, I want to urge the National Treasury that when you have opportunities to borrow resources to help fund our infrastructure and fund our programs, do not fear, because that is what we have to do. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Let's appreciate Honorable Atandi once more. It's now my pleasure to welcome Honorable FCPA John Badi Ngongo, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury. Karibu.
Thank you. Thank you, PS. Let me start by acknowledging the Chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly, Honorable Samuel Atandi. The Principal Secretaries, the State Department, First State Department of National Treasury, Chris Kipto, Boniface Makoha of Economic Planning, and Cyril Odede of Public Investment and Asset Management, other Principal Secretaries present, accounting officers of MDS, development partners, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my privilege to welcome you to this official launch of the 2027-2028 medium-term budget preparation process for Kenya. This process convenes the principal actors in the management of public resources to review, refine, and align with sector priorities with Kenya's Vision 2030, also with the medium-term plan and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is the development policy of this administration, but is aligned strategically with the other two